So, in the description of Lizzie's video about Malka, she linked a document that was made by two people who are apparently victims of Malka, which doesn't really explain a whole lot. I still don't really know what Malka did because, as we discussed before, they never really showed any evidence onto what she did, or at least any good evidence. So Lizzie doesn't really talk about this document at all. In fact, she doesn't even bring it up. But I wanted to take a look at it myself. But before I do that, I want to say that Kuiper, someone who is in a claim to the mind, kind of beat me to the punch this morning. I haven't seen his video as of right now because I wanted my thoughts to be my own when I am dissecting this document for what it is. But I do want to give his video a shout out, and I'll be linking it in the description because he did beat me to the punch, and he is somebody who has also been a help during this little schism that I have jumped myself into with me, Damon, and everybody else. And I will also be linking the original document in the description as well for anybody who wants to go and read it. One other disclaimer I want to give is that I have made a copy of it myself, but I haven't changed anything except for changing all of the text to black. That is because the dumb motherfuckers who wrote this document decided to use a bunch of like extremely bright font when the page is white, which makes it near impossible to read. In fact, they actually did just use a straight up like white colored font at some point, which is again, I imagine the people who made this document are like 14 years old and just don't know how this shit works, but you never put bright colors on a white background. It's just not how it works. But that being said, I just wanted to give a bit of a disclaimer because I will be showing screenshots of the document as I go through it. And I just wanted to say that because my screenshot will show the font being black, so it is easy to read. However, if you go and check out the document link in the description, then it will obviously be a lot worse colors. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into it. So this first part here already has me kind of shaking my head because this first part, in fact, I'm even going to say that most of this document is just focused on just a lot of petty and stupid shit about Malka that I feel like they just added in here to just try and make Malka look like a weird and bad person, which I just think is always not a good look. Which is when you just it's a sign that you just don't have a whole lot to work with when trying to call her transphobic, so you have to rely on most in your document being composed of fucking stuff like this, such as saying she has a feeding fetish or a feeder fetish, where she likes to, I guess, watch Jake eat, which is apparently offended to a bunch of fat asses. I mean, people with eating disorders. This is just I'm trying not to comment too much on this, but it's just one thing I want to point out that no one actually cares about this. And I say nobody, it's because the only reason you would care about this is if you want to try your very hardest to try and like incriminate Malka being a bad person, or if you are a fat fucker. Those are the only two reasons you would actually be upset at Malka having an eating having a like an eating or like a feed a fetish because like again it's just this doesn't mean anything. Like this doesn't make Malka any more or less of a good or bad person at all. It's more of just like an okay kind of thing. Like this does not matter, period. So this kind of just goes into more of what I said already last time, but I do want to pay a bit more attention to with what they say at like the very end here. That's not something you can just speak about casually and expect agreements. That's weird behavior. Why headcanon a character having an eating disorder? Because she can. You know, with that same logic, why headcanon a 17-year-old fictional character being trans? It's because you want to. And I just think that this is extremely hypocritical because if it's weird for Malka to have this quote unquote feeder fetish, which I still don't think that's what this is, because again, these screenshots are kind of taken like extremely out of context. Like it just shows a singular message made by Malka here, so we don't even know why she's saying this or where or when. But going back to what I was saying earlier, that like if it's weird for Malka to headcanon this, then it's weird for anyone to headcanon anything. That's the point of headcanons, that they're just random shit about a character, and this is pretty much a massive nothing burger, which is pretty funny because, you know, her and her headcanon shenanigans is something they try and cite against her later, which I think is just a load of shit either way. But I just wanted to point that out. Like either every headcanon is okay, or none of them all, except for the obvious ones, which I don't think I need to get into. So I avoided talking about this in the Lizzie video, but I'll say it now, because seeing as it's been brought up again. I do not have any issue with Malka portraying Jake as being like a 13 to 14-year old, as long as it's not sexual in nature, because I think it's just wanting to see someone as like a cute kid. I'd Again, I feel like it's just one of those weird, like, I don't want to say like a fetish, because that is like a negative connotation, which is why they briefly mention it in this document. But I think as long as it's not like a sexual thing, then I think it is completely okay. But I want to also talk about what they say near the end here, right under this image, is where they bring up the idea that it's a form of AIDS play, but they say that it's probably just a rumor because they don't have evidence. Allow me to give you guys a 101 on making evidence-backed accusations, is that if you do not have the evidence for any accusations you have, you do not mention it at all. Because the only reason you would say something like this is if you want to try to insinuate it. You know, you want to put the idea in people's minds. It's the only reason you would even type this, or really, I don't know why I said or. It's the only reason that you would type it. It's just I know I'm doing this a lot near the end of these recordings, but I've already read like the full document myself. I'm just going back and recording this like each segment independently, and I'm just not looking forward to have to look at every single thing all over again. So please forgive me if I take a deep sigh every time I record one of these audio segments. So at this part in the document, they actually talk about the one thing that they're really upset about, and really the one thing that should matter in a case like this, and that being the transphobia. However, they started off in the absolute worst way possible. Like, just look at this fucking screenshot they took of Malka and tell me how I am supposed to take any of this seriously. She literally joked about this type of thing that could happen, and then you go ahead and do it. I don't know how you can add this in here and still be super serious about it. Like, this is just absolutely fucking insane. So here's the same screenshot that I've been looking forward to, that I saw in Lizzie's video, that is once again cropped out to show, or I guess not show, who said it, which is exactly the same problem I had in the Lizzie video. But I might as well repeat it one more time. Um, A, this statement is not transphobic in nature, and B, albeit I don't know if this was the same in Lizzie's video, if I said this or not. But because you cropped it like this, we don't even know who the fuck even said this. And the only reason you would want to crop something like that out is if there was something above this message that you don't want other people to see. Like, I don't understand why you crop things like this, or why you crop things in so many other weird ways in later parts of this document. Alright, down here we can see another screenshot that is once again pretty much zero context giving. It's some guy telling Malka to leave him alone, and then it's Malka saying, "Do you want me to be transphobic or not?" I gotta say, even if without having to think too hard, you don't really need to know that this is out of context because no transphobe would ever just like whatever just like proclaim out loud, would you want me to be transphobic or not? And that goes for homophobes or anyone on that spectrum of phobic that everyone treats are like the number one evil in the entire world. And then these screenshot below it, it's just that same dude saying that she's transphobic, which it's, I might as well print out this comment on a piece of paper and wipe my ass with it. It is worthless. It does nothing to prove anything. But I love this comment down here. Her big deal about Jake being trans has nothing to do with an actual headcanon, and is obviously just her trying to be discreetly transphobic and queerphobic. If she was transphobic and queerphobic, she would not be friends with trans people or queer people because they are trans and queer. You know, like it's not exactly something that you can be really discreet about. Like you can't proclaim this just because you have like two like queer people who are crying their ass off over nothing and made this stupid ass doc and say that it affects every single trans and queer person and that Malka just hates all of them because clearly, and what is said in people's posts about this on Miho's side, that's not the case. So this entire segment right here is just extremely dumb, and I don't know why it's even here to begin with. But then again, I don't know why any of this doc is here to begin with. All right, so next is I couldn't show all the screenshots shown here because it was just way too big for me to actually get a good like snippet of, but I captured the end here, and I mostly wanted to talk about what they say here is that apparently since they aren't trans, they can't have an opinion on this situation. Um, but seeing as this is mostly an issue that you are trying to frame around it being, transphobia, I would say that yeah, I imagine she would mostly only care about trans people who are coming to tell her that what she said was offended or not, because why the hell would you listen to a bunch of non-trans people trying to tell you that what you said offended trans people? And also, and this is for a bit, in the next video I'm going to make about everyone's free reaction to my video. But Miho actually made a post today stating that because me and everyone else who made a video about her, that being Damon and Kuiper, are also cisgender, so have no right to try and chime in on this situation, which I feel like is just absolutely fucking hilarious that she would even try and say that, considering she and everyone in her group are cisgendered people trying to push out this narrative that Malka is actually transphobic. Like a part of me feels like she knows what she's doing, but like after taking a bigger look at like her like previous posts and who she is, I think Miho is actually just that fucking stupid. Oh, and also they 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 blacked out and blurred the previous person who was talking to Malka in this screenshot, which isn't a bad thing. But I want you to keep that in mind when I discuss things in the future. Next part here is pretty much something that is pretty ironic considering what Miho said after I posted my initial video, but again, I'll talk about that tomorrow. They are pretty much saying here that Malka has no right to use her mental health as an excuse to not make an apology video. I'm gonna just bring you back to reality here a little bit. No one ever owes you an apology on the internet, especially a 14-year-old kid. If you really think that a 14-year-old who said something that in a very twisted backwards ass first logic may be considered transphobic if you're an extremely sensitive individual with the thinnest skin ever. She does not owe you an apology. And she never did. And be and this does not warrant all of this crazy bullshit that you have been attacking her for in the past 2 months. And that's kind of why I'm doing this, is because this shit has gone just so absolutely crazy with the way that this entire group is handling this. And seeing as they're now trying to backpedal kind of when they ever get any pushback on this recently, just like this entire thing is just dumb, and they know it's dumb because in Miho's recent post about wanting to step away from all of the drama after my video goes live, I want to give you 2 seconds to try and guess what reason she cited as to why. Because the reason she cited was mental health. So, if it's not okay for Malka, a 14-year-old, to use mental health as an excuse to not make a fucking response video to this stupid bullshit, then you don't get to use mental health as a response to try and deflect anyone's criticism they have about you and your handling of this entire fucking situation. If you are generally offended by this, the idea that she may made her own kind of pride flag is like a joke, you need to just go outside and never go on the internet again. Because this is the dumbest thing to ever be upset about ever. And I don't care who you are or what you say. This is actually fucking retarded. I'm gonna have to splash everyone who made this document with some cold water. But some guy or even anyone who wears the maid dress is not inherently quote sexual activity, and especially isn't inherently quote pornography. If your first instinct when you see a guy in a maid dress is to start instantly thinking about jacking off right then and there, that says more about you than it does about Malka. There was nothing inherently sexual or anything that indicates pornography in this image. If anything, I think it's just a joke. A low humor joke, if you want to make fun of her humor instead of trying to say the stupid bullshit and make her seem like a genuine bad person, then yeah. And also Jake being a 17-year-old, Malka is 14. So they're both minors. Like if Malka was like 21 and doing this, you might have a point that's like weird. But seeing as Malka is literally also a minor and younger than Jake, I don't see how any of this is any issue. So the last part here is probably the laziest out of the entire document. They try and describe an explanation of how at some point some person who was pretending to be the voice actor of Jake came into Malka's server and was saying a bunch of weird and inappropriate stuff in front of minors. And what they have to show for it is a wall of text made by the people writing the argument, two cropped screenshots of said VA being weird, and zero screenshots about how Malka was apparently trying to defend this said bad actor. Which I think this ending just symbolizes my entire issue with this entire situation. It's a lot of people saying that shit has happened with little to no show about it at all. And that's the end of the document. Uh, I don't really know what to say that I've already said, but I'm just again incredibly disappointed because I want to make this statement right here is that I am fully against people who are transphobic. I do not. I think that if anyone tries to hate on or hurt people because of anything to do with like the LGBTQ stuff, I think is absolutely fucking cringe. I feel like that should go really without saying. But doing crazy stuff like this, trying to be a super heavy, like, overprotective white knight SJW on the internet over such small stuff like this is the exact thing that those people, those like actual transphobes who want to do harm to transgender people, are going to look at that, call you crazy, and use it to justify their more radical like actions or ideas. And that's kind of, I don't want to say the biggest issue with all this, because I think the biggest issue is that they're fucking just cyberbullying a 14-year-old over stupid shit like this. But that's kind of like, I guess, the grand thing about all this is that this is not the issue that you should be so passionate about. This is not worth the fucking paragraphs and paragraphs of dozens of posts from your entire friend group just circle jerking each other. Like, you bullying the hell out of this 14-year-old is not going to solve any transphobic issues, because she's not even transphobic to begin with. And if you want to prove anyone of actually being like transphobic, you have done the worst job imaginable to anybody who thinks for themselves and doesn't just once again just sit in a circle and circle jerk, like sit in a circle and fucking circle jerk all of you. That's the big issue. And I'm just going to end this now before I keep on ranting. I don't want to run out of background footage because I'm super duper close to running out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow. Bye bye.